Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. I'm your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me today is AJ. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, sir. I'm good. Awake now, finally.
Yes. Matt, how you doing, mate?
All right, not too bad. How's you?
Yeah, not too bad. We're here to do a quick review of the Cambridge United game from Tuesday night. Uh, Not a lot to talk about in this one. There's a lot of frustrating things happened in the game. We'll probably concentrate on that. There's probably some respect and dues owed to Cambridge in the way they came and played on Tuesday night. When you look at the way they played, they set themselves up in a way that we know that Neil Harris has the ability to do. We spoke about it in the lead up to the game that we didn't really know so much about their squad, but we knew that he has the ability to set teams up to be very tricky to play against, and this is exactly what they were. They were well drilled. They kept their shape really well. They played really well. And they had a couple of really standout performances, and we'll probably talk about those as well during the show. Let's start though, AJ, as we always do. Starting lineup. We know we were expecting 11 changes in this one. Uh,
Yep.
on paper, that starting 11 wasn't bad.
Still strong. No, still very, very strong. I was pleasantly surprised by all of it, especially a start for Kevin. Um, I expected Muniz to play, as I said in the preview, because of confidence, and I think it still probably would have benefited him to be involved earlier on in that game because he would have had that drive more than Raul did. Frankly, in terms of Raul's performances, that's one of his worst in a while, but we'll get into that in a minute. Outside of that, there wasn't really much I didn't expect from that lineup. It was good to see Jedi back. It was clear he was off the pace a little bit. I think he only did two overlaps all game, which says a lot for him. But otherwise, yeah, as expected, as you said.
Yeah, it's a frustrating one, and we're going to talk about some individual performances in a minute because obviously there was a few really concerning ones during the game, especially for some players that we see as fringe players in the squad who may be pushing for
Mm.
maybe getting the starting lineup here and there or playing here and there. They did not really do themselves a lot of favors in trying to claim a spot. But before we do that, Matt, uh, the game on Tuesday really tight. Obviously, we really, really struggled to break through it. Was it a case of it was the way we had set up, or the way Cambridge had set up, or was it just because the two players that are playing out on the wing just couldn't really find space to do anything in for us to be effective in any way, shape, or form?
I think it was mainly due to the fact that Cambridge is set up to defend us very, very well. They had the wing back set to defend that overlap, underlap that Marco loves to do. Um, and I just think they were solid at the back, Cambridge. We we didn't let the ball float, we didn't let the ball do the work. It was very much jagged, so to speak, football. Um, so we couldn't get the natural flow coming in, which I think messed us up a lot. But all in all, we should have done better. We should have done better, but we just couldn't get going.
Yeah, it's a real concern to me. Some of the performances during the game. I didn't hide my frustrations at Adama Traore. Adama Traore is one of those players that he frustrates me almost every single time he plays. For someone who is athletically gifted as he is, he has absolutely no footballing brain at all. Like it's like when he was being handed his gifts, he was given 100% muscle and 0% brain. Like it's so frustrating watching him play football because no matter what he does, no matter how good a bit of work he does, the next thing he has to do is going to mess up. AJ, we've spoken about him loads in the past, right? And we almost sold him during the summer. Are we regretting not selling him during the summer? Because I don't envision how he's even remotely touched on claiming a place in the squad after that performance on Tuesday.
I mean, I don't think we'll regret not selling him, especially since we don't necessarily have adequate replacement at this stage. We've got a lone player in Chukwueze, which is great to have, or Chukwueze, who's great to have, and I'm expect from this point forward, we're more likely to see more of him than we are of Adama going forward based on that performance. But I don't necessarily think that we're thankful that we didn't sell him either. It's one of those, had he had gone, it wouldn't be a sore miss. Him having stayed isn't a huge gain. So it's a bit of a middle ground. But in any regard, his performance on Tuesday was diabolical. He got absolutely pocketed by League One defenders. And if that doesn't necessarily show the decline he's going through, maybe it was just an off day for him being overcritical. I don't know. But the fact that there's a conversation of right, this is the level he's got to now is a bit pathetic, frankly. You could argue that Kevin also got pocketed, but he got doubled up on at every instance. They didn't even need to bother doubling up on Adama. Every single thing he did turned to shit. If it were up to me, I would have axed him before half time. But there you go.
Yeah, I think the thing with Kevin on the other wing was that they clearly set up to not necessarily double team him, but to stop the overlapping run by Robinson. And naturally, because Robinson wasn't pushing too far forward, it just meant that Kevin was being team doubled up on because they were expecting the overlapping run by Robinson, but because of the fact they were sat, in a bank of seven and a bank of three, it basically meant there was no space on that width of the pitch for them to move out. And I understand Adama had that same problem on the other side, but the problem with Adama is that Adama misplaced about 30 passes. And we're not even talking about difficult passes. We're talking about, 10 foot to the side of you. And it's not acceptable as a professional footballer for that to happen. One thing I do want to say, though, talking about Cambridge and giving them their dues, I thought their wing back Bennett was outstanding. There were Fulham fans calling for us to maybe look to sign him in January. For a young player playing against a Premier League team for the first time, um, I thought he was really, really impressive, and I thought he did really well, uh, sort of keeping us quiet going forward. And if I was Cambridge, I'd be very pleased with the performance he put in. I think was it Broadshaw was the other player as well who also had a really good game. In fact, the whole defense had a really good game. You have to be honest. It was one of those games. Also, we knew that Eastwood was probably the key, and he had a really good game, and that meant we stayed really quiet in front of goal. Let's talk about a few positives about us, though, before we sort of go into things. There were a couple of performances that were still very, very encouraging for us. We're really concerned come December, January when the AFCON comes around, and who's going to replace certain players. Matt, Jorge Cuenca, I thought he put in another really good performance on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I know that he's vying for that back for Bassi spot, but if he keeps putting his performances in the cup, he could be asking a few questions about maybe getting into the first team even before the AFCON comes around.
Yeah, definitely. Um, he's come on leaps and bounds over the past, what was it, year that we've had him. Um, from whenever we signed him, I didn't think that he was going to come to be someone who would be considered a first team player. But over the past couple of weeks, he's flourished in that position. Um, and I agree with you. I do think Bassi needs to step it up, or else he is going to get dropped. Um, because Cuenca is very slowly, not very slowly but surely catching up to the quality of Calvin Bassey.
Yeah, I think we might even be in a position where we might even have a look at maybe putting Bassi out on left back if we have positional problems with Robinson, because we know he
Yeah,
can play there. And I'm bored of saying that Ryan Sessegnon is not a left back, but that's a conversation for another time and how it is. The other player that I want to talk about for us on Thursday is a player we spoke a lot about last year in Emma Smith Rowe. AJ, how do you sort of describe his performance on Tuesday, because I don't think it was inherently bad, and I don't think it was inherently like great, but I don't think he played that bad. How would you describe his performance on Tuesday?
Just a consistent midfielder's performance, to be honest. And he happened to pop up in the right place for the goal, which was good. It showed good initiative from him to be in and around the box, especially considering the circumstances of the goal. I think Roll was a bit unlucky from the initial strike, to be honest. It was a really well hit volley and would have looked like a bit of an exceptional goal. And then when it gets pinged back into the box, all ESR has to do really is put a toe to it, and it works out perfectly for him in order to get the goal. I think the performance was solid enough. I think when King came on, he showed why he's the one starting Premier League fixtures as opposed to ESR. But ESR didn't necessarily do anything wrong in that game, and he's in fact, for periods of the game, he was the only one showing any real frustration with the lack of penetration and actually upped the tempo a little bit, while players would usually expect to up the tempo like Kearney were very sluggish. So, yeah, I have nothing negative to say about ESR, would you believe it or not?
No, I thought he played really well. I think it was one of those ones where he didn't have a lot of support. It's the same as I sort of feel for Jimenez a bit in the game on Tuesday, because they were sat so far back in a line in two banks, 7 and 3. We had next to no chance of getting the ball in the box. The problem is that we have this discussion all the time, especially about Marco Silva's substitution. And I don't necessarily have a problem with the subs he made on Tuesday, but they were like for like subs again. Nothing really changed dramatically um, going forward. And at what point do we have to have a conversation with ourselves openly and be honest with ourselves and go, we need a manager who sets his team up to have more than one style of play, who sets his team up that they can actually transition in the way they play during a game. That means that when they play against teams that do this, and we have to be honest with ourselves here, this is the reason why we have a record of beating teams above us who play football and losing against teams below us that try to stop us from playing football, because we really struggle to break teams down, and that has not changed. And Tuesday was a perfect highlight of that, where, yes, Cambridge played well and they did exactly what they had to do in the sense of sitting back and defended astonishingly well. But you wanted a bit of flair, right? Kevin was isolated out, so you need other players to step up and maybe take a bit of that flair, and nobody did. And it was really, really worrying that no one did. Tom Kearney, it's one of those things for me with Tom Kearney now. I don't think he's the type of player who can speed up a game anymore. I think he's the type of player you want when you need someone to come on, calm heads, and slow the game down. But I don't think he's a player for speeding games up anymore. And I think that was evident enough on Tuesday night, because he really struggled to pick up pace in certain areas where we needed to. In fact, between him and Harrison Reed on Tuesday, who again, Harrison Reed had a decent game, not knocking his game. I'm just saying that those are not two players that will pick up the pace of a game. They will slow the pace down when we need the tempo to be calmed down, but they cannot pick it up. And I think that we have to be in a position where we are concerned that outside of our starting 11, we don't have players that can do that as well as we maybe need them to. Matt, I don't know if that's just a me concern or if that's a you concern as well, but does it concern you our inability sometimes to pick up the pace?
Yes, it doesn't help with the formation that we play playing with the 4-2-3-1, because it is mainly a defensive formation. So whenever we are on that counter attack, trying to move that at a fast pace, the DMs need to be going faster. Everyone needs to move that little bit faster, which is something we don't really have. What I'd like to see is Marco bringing an attacking formation in and altering it so it's free flowing, where they can switch to that attacking formation but also drop back into that 4-2-3-1 on the defensive. Then it makes it easier for our slower players to alternate from that defending mindset to the attacking mindset. not needing to use as much pace, and it's also a very good way to catch teams out. But it's with the formation we play, you need to have players who are rapid, or else you will get caught out. And I've seen it many a times.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. Lads, let's wrap this one up how we always do. Talk about man of the match and honourable mentions. AJ, I'll start with you, buddy. Can I get a couple of honourable mentions and a man of the match for this game, please?
Honourable mention to Kevin. He tried hard. Didn't really do much wrong. ESR as well as an honourable mention. Periods of the game where he definitely tried to up the pace a little bit, and obviously he got the goal at the end of the day. Honourable mention to King as well, who when he came on was very, very decisive with the ball and tried to move it quickly. My man of the match, frankly, has to be Cuenca, though. He was the one trying to thread passes in between the back line, trying to break open the defence from centre back, and was just all in all absolutely controlling from that back line. And frankly, if he continues to play like that, we're going to have to ask questions of whether or not him or Bassi starts, depending on the type of fixture that we've got.
Yeah, I think it's a fair shout. Matt, how about you, mate? A couple of honourable mentions and a man of the match, please.
Honourable mentions for me, I think it is going to be the same. Kevin, he tried to get the flicks on, he tried to move right, he just couldn't with that two players marking him. Josh King, forward, whenever he came on, he upped the tempo a bit, brought a little bit of something on with him. And I made a Smith throw because he seemed to be the only one that really properly cared, other than the man of the match, Cuenca, for me. But the two of them, they were the only ones that were trying to break the team down, that were trying to make those balls go. So for me, it's between them two.
Yeah, I think it's a fair shout. For me, obviously I'm going to talk about Fulham players. I want to get, as I said, we've already done it, but I think there's a few Cambridge United players that really deserve a lot of credit for the way they played on Tuesday. You know, we mentioned Bennett, we mentioned Eastwood and how well they played with Broadshaw. You know, McLaughlin. I thought they played exceptionally well in the roles they had, and they were very impressive in the game. And when you're a Premier League club playing against League Two opposition, they should not have four players that stand out as well as those four did. So you know they deserve all the credit there, and they would be my honourable mentions because for me the only person who can get man of the match is Jorge Cuenca. You know there are certain Fulham players in that game that really underperformed, were a bit under impressive, but you know he was the only one who probably when he was needed to defend, he defended well. When he needed to push forward, he pushed forward well, and it is as simple as that. You know, we have another conversation about Lamont, the goalkeeper, he didn't have anything to do, so you can't really give him more praise than what he had to do. He did, but I think Jorge actually got tested at times, and then when he did it well. You know, other than one absolutely mental moment where he shot from 35 yards because he was getting frustrated with us pushing forward. The rest of his game was outstanding, so it can only be him. Lads, thank you very much for joining me on this review. Just to let everybody know, this is obviously Friday morning. This has come out. Our Aston Villa preview will be coming out on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. So look out for that. Obviously, everyone going to the game on Sunday, it's a good listen for you on that one. We will have the review of the Aston Villa game, which is obviously on Sunday, out next Tuesday. And then we also have a new episode of FFC and Me out next Wednesday. And the guests for that will be announced probably over the weekend. But other than that, we'll see you tomorrow for our Aston Villa preview. Nothing really more to say than comedy works.